There comes a point when we realize we can no longer live as a hostage to insecurity, especially when it's mixed with toxic people who seem to sniff out our weaknesses. Perhaps you've felt this before. That feeling of always walking on eggshells, trying to maintain peace while carrying a silent unease in your chest. The good news is that there's a lighter path, and it begins when you decide to take control of what truly belongs to you. Your mind, your emotions, and your energy. In this video, you'll discover 8 intelligent attitudes, inspired by the principles of Stoicism, capable of strengthening your emotional defenses and completely transforming how you deal with those who try to destabilize you. These are practical, clear steps that can be applied in everyday life, even when everything seems chaotic. And the best part? You don't need to change the world outside. You just need to change your attitude towards it. Get ready, because some of these attitudes might challenge what you've always believed about self-control, boundaries, and coexistence. But if you apply what's here, you'll realize that insecurity loses ground when wisdom takes over. And that's exactly what I want to share with you today. Self-control is like that silent anchor that prevents the mind from being dragged along by the behavior of others. When you realize that you don't control other people's attitudes, only your own, life shifts. Often, insecurity pushes us to want to please too much, justify every gesture, explain what no one asked, and this only opens doors for those who shouldn't enter. True wisdom lies in recovering this inner center, maintaining focus on what you can adjust, and practicing intelligent self-preservation. If it helps, start with something simple. Before reacting, breathe for 3 seconds and observe what truly deserves your attention. It may seem like little, but that's how emotional protection is strengthened. Over time, it becomes easier to realize that silence is not weakness, but a strategy. It prevents you from wasting energy on those who feed off your imbalance. This change doesn't happen overnight, but small daily choices, such as choosing your companions more carefully or cultivating inner boundaries, make a difference. Reading works like Marcus Aurelius's *Meditations* can further broaden this perspective, because it reminds us that the world will always present provocations, but it is we who decide how to react. This firm, yet serene, stance reduces the space for insecurity and opens up room for personal growth. Gradually, you realize that controlling yourself is the greatest act of protection anyone can practice. Forgiveness is a relieving gesture, but it doesn't need to be accompanied by reopening paths that have already hurt you. Often, insecurity tries to convince you that it's mandatory to resume relationships just to avoid seeming harsh or cold. But true forgiveness is an act of self-control and self-preservation. It's letting go of the weight without handing back the key to your peace. When you understand this, you begin to see that emotional protection also includes knowing where not to return. A practical exercise is to write down on a piece of paper what you release and what you no longer accept. This clarity prevents emotional relapses. Maturity appears when you realize that forgiveness doesn't mean coexistence, much less unrestricted access. It's like cleaning a wound. You care for it, close it, but don't poke at it again. Wise people learn to set boundaries after forgiving because they know that repeating pain isn't evolution. It's a lack of focus on themselves. If guilt arises from distancing yourself, remember that compassion for the other person cannot outweigh your emotional protection. Books like The 4 Agreements help reinforce this idea of individual responsibility, showing that everyone deals with their own baggage. Forgiving liberates you, but maintaining distance protects you, and the two can coexist without conflict. Boundaries aren't walls, they're filters, and anyone who has struggled with insecurity knows how easy it is to give in just to avoid discomfort. But this excessive flexibility often comes at a high price. It drains energy, erodes emotional protection, and weakens self-control. Establishing subtle, yet clear, boundaries is an act of wisdom. You can speak calmly, use silence when necessary, and still be firm. For example, responding, "I can't talk about that right now," already defines an emotional perimeter without creating conflict. It's curious how, when you communicate simply, those who respect you stay, and those who don't respect you become uncomfortable and distance themselves. Over time, you realize that well-applied boundaries attract healthier companions and ward off behaviors that drain your energy. Insecurity tries to make you believe you'll be seen as arrogant, but setting boundaries isn't aggression. It's self-care. A good exercise is to list 3 things you usually allow that harm you, and define how you will act the next time they arise. This way, you don't react impulsively, you react with focus. Books like Essentialism help reinforce this ability to select what enters and what stays out of your emotional space. Life becomes lighter when you understand that saying no doesn't break bonds. It simply organizes what truly matters. Humor, when used wisely, is like light armor. It protects without weighing you down. When insecurity tries to turn any criticism into a personal attack, a touch of lightness can defuse the tension before it even escalates. It's not about making jokes about everything, but about not handing your emotions over to those who want to throw you off balance. Imagine someone trying to provoke you and, instead of engaging in the game, you respond with a calm smile and a phrase like, "Interesting point of view." It's simple, elegant, and cuts off the fuel for provocation. It's the kind of self-control that surprises even those trying to destabilize you. And the best part is that this approach preserves your emotional protection without creating unnecessary conflicts. Intelligent humor allows you to stay focused on what really matters without getting caught up in petty battles. People with good company usually do this naturally. They laugh at what doesn't deserve to be taken so seriously and save energy for what has value. If you want to practice this lightness, try observing your next interactions and thinking, does this deserve my seriousness, or can I let it pass gracefully? Little by little, you realize that laughing with class is an act of self-preservation. And, interestingly, that's how insecurity loses ground without you declaring war on anyone. Toxic people love to provoke reactions, especially when they sense insecurity. They pull on emotional threads until they find that sensitive spot that makes you lose self-control. The strategy, however, is not to react, it's not to play along. When you remain silent, take a deep breath, and observe before responding, something powerful happens. The manipulation loses its strength. It's as if you're taking the audience away from an actor who depends on drama to exist. A good exercise is to ask yourself, does this require a response or just conscious attention? Often, simply recognizing the intention behind the provocation already provides immediate emotional protection. Over time, refusing to engage in emotional games restores your focus and clarity. You begin to see that certain situations only continue because you participate in them. When you leave, the conflict crumbles. And that's not coldness. It's wisdom. A practical example is responding neutrally with short sentences, avoiding lengthy explanations. They only feed the manipulator. Books like Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman help you understand how your emotions can be allies, not traps. This type of posture attracts more balanced companions and, little by little, transforms silent insecurity into conscious self-preservation. And it is in this gentle firmness that you pave the way for healthier relationships. Insecurity often causes many people to remain in environments that no longer make sense, just to avoid seeming selfish. But distancing yourself is often the most profound form of self-preservation. When you decide to leave a toxic cycle, you're not abandoning anyone, you're rescuing yourself. And that requires focus, courage, and clear boundaries. A good start is practicing gradual distancing, reducing conversations, avoiding lengthy justifications, and prioritizing your peace. This silent and firm movement strengthens your emotional protection without creating unnecessary confrontations. Over time, you realize that guilt only arises when your mind is still trying to please those who never considered your feelings. But when you understand your own worth, guilt loses its power. Wisdom lies in accepting that some companions don't lead you where you want to go, and that's okay. A simple exercise is to recall situations where you stayed out of fear and ask yourself, what did I lose of myself there? This type of reflection broadens awareness and reduces insecurity. And, if you need support, books like The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown can help strengthen this decision. Firmly distancing yourself isn't about forcibly cutting ties. It's about choosing the emotional life you deserve. When something hurts you, the initial urge is to talk, vent, revisit every detail. But often, this only reinforces the pain. Insecurity loves this cycle because it keeps your mind stuck on what diminishes you. Strategic silence, on the other hand, is a form of self-control that strengthens your emotional protection. Instead of feeding the problem, you remove the energy it needs to grow. A simple exercise is to ask yourself, does this deserve my attention, or is it just trying to steal my focus? This question, repeated daily, changes everything. Over time, not giving attention to what weakens you becomes a natural practice. You realize that complaining less and observing more creates a calmer, lighter, and wiser inner environment. By avoiding reliving wounds, you open space for better company, more constructive thoughts, and more mature decisions. Books like *The Power of Now* by Eckhart Tolle help reinforce this ability to return to the present without carrying unnecessary burdens. When you learn to use silence as a tool for self-preservation, insecurity loses its microphone, and what once troubled you begins to disappear effortlessly. Focus is one of the strongest forms of emotional protection you can develop. When your mind is directed towards what matters, your growth, your goals, your well-being, the noise of toxic people loses its power. Insecurity tries to pull you into comparisons, provocations, and petty conflicts, but focus acts as a silent shield. A simple exercise is to list 3 priorities for your day and commit to following them, regardless of external distractions. This practice restores your self-control and creates a sense of inner stability that no one can steal. Over time, you realize that maintaining focus is less about trying hard and more about choosing where to invest your energy. When you prioritize your achievements, negative company fades into the background. It's like tuning a radio. You only hear what strengthens you. Books like Atomic Habits by James Clear help transform this discipline into a routine, showing how small actions build big results. Thus, each day it becomes clearer that focus is not just productivity, it's applied wisdom. It reminds you that your evolution is worth more than any attempt to throw you off balance, dissolving insecurity naturally. The people around you influence your energy more than you realize. When insecurity takes over, it's common to accept emotional crumbs just to avoid losing connections, even knowing that certain companions drain your strength. But choosing wisely who walks beside you is a profound act of self-preservation. A good start is to observe how you feel after talking to someone, lighter or more tense. This simple analysis reveals a lot about emotional protection and self-control. Wisdom lies in understanding that not everyone deserves access to your inner space, and that's okay. Over time, you realize that healthy company broadens your focus, boosts your self-esteem, and reduces the space occupied by insecurity. Toxic people, on the other hand, throw you off balance, test your limits, and cause your energy to fluctuate. Therefore, start getting closer to those who inspire you, support you, and help you grow. Between quality advice and a conversation that only fuels chaos, always choose what strengthens you. Books like *The Power of Relationships* by V.J.S. Warren show how the social environment shapes our minds. And when you filter your connections wisely, your emotional protection strengthens naturally, effortlessly, simply through alignment. Inner peace doesn't arise when the world becomes lighter, but when you learn to walk with more wisdom. Insecurity always tries to whisper that you need the approval of others to feel good. But this is nothing more than an old echo trying to hold you back where you no longer belong. When you take control of yourself, set boundaries, choose good company, and protect your energy, something profoundly changes. You realize that your peace depends more on the decisions you make than on the actions of others. And this understanding is liberating. Start by making a small list of what steals your emotional protection and another of what strengthens you. This clarity is already a huge step towards emotional maturity. Over time, you understand that staying calm isn't passivity, it's a strategy of strong people. Not reacting to provocations, applying silence when necessary, using focus as a compass, and practicing self-preservation don't make you cold. They make you wise. Each conscious choice diminishes the space for insecurity and expands your inner strength. Books like Epictetus's *The Manual* help reinforce this stoic understanding that true authority over life begins within you. And, by realizing that your peace is your responsibility, you stop asking permission to be happy. This is the point where the journey becomes lighter, and the world less threatening.